Let's talk about off-spawn. People see this as one of the hardest things to master in Fortnite. Well, why is that? Well, here is why. When we drop off spawn, a lot of the time it comes down to RNG. You can land on 5 potential chest spawns and not a single one spawns, where someone can land on one chest and get a gold shotgun. Let's look at an example. I decided to drop into 10 different arena games and land at this spot here called Colossal Cactus. It has 7 different chest spawns in game, and after all 10 games, I got a total of 40 chests out of the 70 potential spawns, which means there was a 57.14% chance of a chest spawning, which means most likely the chance of you getting a chest that you land on in-game is about 50%. Out of the 40 chests I found, only 2 of them were god chests, meaning there's a 5% chance of you finding a god chest, and the lowest amount of chests out of the 7 potential spawns I found was 1, and the highest was 6. 50% of the time, there was 5 or more chests. So now you know the percentages of getting a chest. I'm going to be going through 5 tips to help you master off-spawn like a pro. Going into tip number 1. My first tip is for when you drop out of the battle bus. Make sure you have a drop map. This is super important, especially if you want to nail your drop and always win that 50-50 for the chest spawn. I highly recommend making it yourself. Just drop into arena, open up the map on Fortnite.gg and just play. Every time you get a good drop, mark the spot you want on the map, as the best drop maps are the ones made by you, not one you spent £20 on by someone who made it. Then you go in tournament and all your drops are wrong. This is something every single pro has when dropping off spawn, so make sure you have one. Tip number 2 is to have a dedicated loot route. You want to have a loot route that you can make yourself. Look on Fortnite.gg for all the chest spawns and land there. The best thing to do is just go to your spot and test it out. It's important to get loot, but it's just important to include mats in your loot route. You want to aim for roughly about 500 mats, because if you get 500 mats, you should have enough to win any off-spawn fight. This is because it gives you room to box or go for height or do whatever you want, and just gives you that freedom to fight. Going into tip number 3, this is to use spray weapons to your advantage. Most people off-spawn don't have many mats, especially if you get loot right off the bat to key someone, ramp up, camp on height and spray them. Most teams have only about 100 to 200 mats total right off spawn, unless they have an optimal loot route that allows them to get more. So just know your drop spot, where the people are when contesting you at all times. Now moving on to tip number 4. This is a big tip, so listen closely. Go to Elite Division in the tournament section, go on the leaderboards, go to any game and watch the team that lands at your location. Even better if they're a pro, and just study their 10 games, their mid-game rotates, what mats they farm, where they land, and just copy them. A lot of the time these pros have coaches that study the whole drop spot, tell them everything they need to know, including how to fight, what to farm, where to go to, what chest to go for, what to avoid. So if you could take advantage of this, go into replays, study their behaviors. Do they play passive in a certain area? Are they aggressive? Do they spray on high? Do they look to box fight? Study absolutely everything these pros do, and I promise you that your tournament placements will thank you for it. Moving on to tip number 5. Watch your own games back and replays. After a tournament or after scrims, look around, see what chests you missed. Is there a specific ammo box spawn you missed every time? Go into the free camera and just fly around. Make sure you looted your spot properly, especially if you go to mid-game or end-game and you seem to have hardly any AR ammo, or you're missing meds, you don't have much meds. The chances are you could actually be missing something. So go around, have a look, see if you've missed any ammo boxes, check if your duo's missing any as well. So now we're going to go back and review everything. So tip number 1 is to make sure you have a drop map. Tip number 2 was to have a dedicated loot route and to do research on your spot. Tip number 3 was to use spray weapons to your advantage, as most people don't have mats. Tip number 4 was to watch pros and how they drop. And tip number 5 was to watch your own games back and VOD review your off spawn. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash like. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably also enjoy my last video. This is holding you back from becoming a pro, and you can watch that by clicking on the banner on screen now.